And we're live, everyone. This is Amateur Gamer, and then we'll return to ROTK 10, continue with the battle history mode. Hopefully, I'll be able to finish covering the rest of this episode, and then we'll see. I'll probably take a break so I don't get burned out on a single game. I've felt that with Civ 5 sometimes, so yeah. Alright, so the next one is the battle at Basu, where basically Cao Cao is trying to unite all of China under him, and what's standing between him is Basu. Though, funnily enough, even if you win as the opposition, eventually they still surrender. I think they surrendered to Cao Pi, not Cao Cao. So, eventually, China is still unified under Cao Cao's family. So, so first, the first event. This happens regardless which side you play, and it's basically after a few days. I don't remember how many days. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think it's day 3? Day 3 or day 4. Basically, Ma Cao arrives onto the scene. And that's about it. That's all it is. Ma Cao arrives on the scene with 30,000 troops. And yeah, that's the reinforcements for the defenders. And then the next one. So, around day 7. Okay, it's day 4 for Ma Cao's forces to arrive. Around day 7, what happens is, as long as Ma Cao is still there, then Xia Houyuan will come and assist. So basically, there'll be a scene where Ma Cao is going after Cao Cao, and Xia Houyuan comes and saves him, and that's about it. Next step. Next one is Zhang Lin's trap. So basically, I don't know what triggers this, because it seems random. Sometimes it happens later, like after Xia Houyuan arrives. Sometimes it happens earlier. And basically, all of your troops that are on terrain that's considered mountainous will be ambushed and take a heavy hit. And then the next one. The next one is basically like I've been trying to unlock it, but it's tough because first you can't play as Cao Cao. You have to play as his strategist, Jia Yu, I think. So basically, at least what it says in the guide and what I haven't been able to achieve is that you're supposed to use this strategist, and while Cao Cao's forces outnumber the enemy, you have to move Jia Yu over to Lian and basically convince him to betray the defenders and join Cao Cao. And what's difficult is, okay, let's open this up because it's probably easier to explain with like the actual gameplay. So part of the issue is that you need everything to align, and I just don't have that sort of luck. I think I used it up for the debate with Zhuge Liang in the Red Cliff. So this is your unit. This is the only unit you control. And this is Lien. This is the officer you're trying to make betray. So, first of all, there are three tendencies. Okay, there are two main tendencies he'll do. Either he goes through the gates, then you have to restart because you can't reach him, or he goes to this tile, this grass flat tile. First, he has to move on to this grass tile. Next, you need to be next to him to trigger it, but you can't reach him before Matao forces arrive. So from my understanding, your forces, number of soldiers, have to outnumber theirs. But the issue is, when Matao arrives, he brings 30,000 troops. And with 30,000 troops, they get to 80,000. And because of their siege weapons, chances are Cao Cao's forces will suffer plenty of losses, while the defender suffers very little. And what that ends up doing is that when Matao arrives, you have to deal with their forces somehow. I don't even know if you have to keep Matao alive or not. But, of course, there's also the factor of Cao Cao's forces where sometimes they just run away. They just all run into the mountains, ambush happens, they get wrecked. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing. Because of the ambush, they actually take a ton of damage, so that it makes it even tougher. So, for it to succeed, these are the factors that I think have to work. You need Lien to move to this tile and not leave. You need most of your forces not in the mountains so that you suffer minimal losses. You have to deal with Matao's forces. Like I said, I don't know if Matao has to be alive or not, but just to be certain, maybe you want to use this 8 cost one that makes them fight between themselves. Maybe you want to weaken them, make them fight between themselves, weaken them, and then wait until your reinforcements arrive and hope that the ambush by Zhonglin doesn't happen. I've seen it happen after Xiahou Yuan's forces arrive. So if everything works out, so Lien moves to here, you stay here, you make them fight between themselves, weaken their numbers, move next to Lien, and then your reinforcements arrive, and then you convince him to surrender to you, and then the trap happens, so you take some damage, but then the enemy will also lose some units. Overall, it's a very complicated thing, and you just have too little control. Now, for those who are confident in themselves, they could definitely try it. I can't do it. Next one is much easier. Next one is Zhang. Is it He? I think it's Zhang He. So this one is very simple. You play as the officer, and then you just have to position yourself so that you're surrounded by 2 enemy forces. So basically, you could wait until Matao arrives, and then just position yourself to be surrounded by 2 of them, and then this will happen. This is really simple. It might take a few tries because it might not always trigger, or maybe you'll get targeted by enemy siege weapons, but overall, this one's pretty simple. Now, moving on to Liu Zhang's. I think that's Zhang. Maybe it's pronounced differently. I wouldn't be surprised. So, for this one, around day 7, Xiahou Yuan will come and reinforce. That's pretty straightforward. I managed to defeat Matao on my first try before reinforcements arrived, so you don't have to worry about this. Matao won't die. For whatever reason, Cao Cao's forces, if you're playing on the other side, they just ignore Matao's forces for whatever reason. It's really weird. And then the next one. This is the ambush by Zhonglin. I mean, this one just happens after like day 5, day 6. It automatically happens. So basically, you're playing as Zhonglin. It just happens. Basically, you know, Zhonglin is not even the leader of the defenders. The leader will say, "What are we going to do? We can't fight them head on." And Zhonglin is like, "Don't worry, I already laid down ambushes. This just happens, so don't worry. It's pretty easy." This one is a bit. This one requires a bit more patience, but it's not too bad. So this one requires you to play as Zhonglin, and you have to move next to Jiayu. So what you do is you have to be patient. You have to whittle down the enemy forces so that they have few enemies in the way, and then you just have to move next to him, and that's all that has happened. So this is basically playing like historically Zhonglin killed Peng Tong by having an ambush. Here they're just making it so Jiayu replaces Peng Tong, and you get the idea. And then this one is also using something historical and just, you know, put in a historical situation. So what happens is you have to play as Fatzen. So you have to play as Fatzen, and probably like day 3 or so, you need to start moving towards the mountains. And then you just have to be adjacent to him. You don't have to be able to attack him. You just have to be adjacent to him at a height. Okay, on the terrain that has a height that's... Okay, let's see. So basically, you have to be on a higher elevation. So as you know, the terrain has different elevations. You have to be next to Xiahou, and your terrain has to be at most 2 elevations higher than the square he's on. And then basically you have Yin come and kill him, and that basically sends the reinforcements packing. So this is a play on Liu Bei's later fight for Hanzong, where Fazen basically advises Huangzong to kill Xiahou. Here you just have someone else, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, this one isn't too hard. You just have to get your timing down, and then that's all you have to do. Next, re-establishing the Han Dynasty. So the first one, pretty straightforward. It doesn't matter which side. Day 4, you have Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Ma Cao, Huang Zong, and Zhao Yun basically arrive to reinforce Liu Bei. Pretty simple. Second one. So this one can only happen if you play as Cao Cao or Liu Bei, but I feel it's a bit easier with Cao Cao. What you do is you need them bordering each other. So what you have to do is you have to taunt Liu Bei before he builds a siege weapon, and then he comes out, and then you go next to him and you're able to duel him. And they're actually pretty even, but this is probably the like high risk, high reward sort of scenario. You win that duel, you win the whole scenario. Now the next one is... So the next one is interesting because it only happens if... So the idea is if your enemy... So since you're playing as Cao Cao, if Liu Bei's forces seems to greatly outnumber, then Sun Quan will surrender. So what happens is, when you start, Cao Cao has 10 individual forces. Sun Quan has 6, and Liu Bei has 7. So what you need to do is, the simplest way is first retreat your non-important forces so that your total forces drop to 7. And then apparently you need someone to attack the fortress. And then you wait for the 5 tiger warriors to arrive. That will give them, what do you call it, 5 more forces. So there will be a total of 11 forces. So what ends up happening is it will happen consecutively. The moment they arrive, it seems like Liu Bei's forces just have such an overwhelming advantage. You'll have the 2 events happen at the same time, apparently. Okay, next one. So next one, you have to play as Sima Yi. And all you have to do is taunt I don't remember how you pronounce it, but this guy. Yeah, unfortunately, my vocabulary is very limited. The fact that I could speak a bit of it is already a miracle. So all you have to do is taunt him, and then it will trigger. And this is reenacting what happened at Jieting, where he was basically, he was taunted and put into a really bad situation, and then he was executed by Zhuge Liang because, he vowed to bring victory and he lost. So yeah. So next one, Sun Quan surrenders. This one is when day 7, it will automatically happen. So what happens is Zhang Zhao will arrive and says that Sun Quan wants to surrender. You could choose to debate, and if you win, you don't surrender, or you could agree and you don't have to debate. Now, winning this debate is extremely hard because Lu Xun is just not that good at debating Zhang Zhao. But sadly, you do need to win that, and I'm just not in the mood of getting into it. So, next step, Zhuge Qing and Zhuge Liang. So Zhuge Qing is the big brother of Zhuge Liang, if I remember correctly. So what happens is you play as Zhuge Qing. You have to move right next to Zhuge Liang. You have a very small window to work with, but it didn't take me many tries, so it's definitely possible. So you move next to him, and he'll try to convince Zhuge Liang to surrender to Wu. It's extremely hard to do, but I mean, if you want a challenge, actually I think it's damn near impossible. But regardless, it's not that hard to trigger, so you could get that. I'll talk about the missing one in a moment. So next, if you're playing as Liu Bei, the one I'm missing has so many steps that I'm like, screw this, too many things need to work out. So you're playing as Liu Bei, and around day 7, it will happen. Apparently it's automatic, so you're almost guaranteed to win, unless something goes horribly wrong. And then next is Wang Liang. So what happens is you play as Zhuge Liang, and then you have to be next to Cao Zhen's forces. And when you're next to Cao Zhen's forces, this will automatically happen. They will basically throw insults, And I think there's a debate. I don't remember. But overall, Zhuge Liang basically angers Wang Liang so much that he dies from the insults because he was so furious. And in the book, apparently, this actually happened. But it happened much later. But it was the same. Wang Liang was trying to insult Zhuge Liang, but instead he died of anger because he couldn't beat Zhuge Liang's incredible ability to debate. So next one, this is pretty simple. You use Liu Bei after the 5 Tiger Warriors arrive. You just have to move him next to Guan Yu and then it will trigger. Actually, yeah, you just have to move him next to him. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, now let's talk about the missing one. This one is missing because I'm not going through everything because this just requires way too much setup. And one of the things you have to do is you have to win the debate against Zhang Cao, which is, while possible, it's just extremely tough, and that's only one of the hard parts. So let me explain what has to be done. You have to pick Lu Xun. Then you have to get rid of Zhuge Liang's main and secondary forces. So that's 20,000 troops you have to eliminate. And then next, Liu Bei and Lu Xun have to be next to each other. And not only that, but Liu Bei's main force have to be surrounded by 2 Wu forces. So Lu Xun and someone else. And Liu Bei cannot be in the fort that he begins in. So you have to use taunt to get him out of there. And you also need to destroy that fort so that, like you see how crazy it is? It's like first you have to get rid of Zhuge Liang and his forces. So like his secondary forces. That's 20,000 troops that you have to get rid of. That is not fun. And then, you have to surround Liu Bei with 2 of your forces. And then next he has to be outside of his fort. So you have to taunt him. And then you have to destroy the fort, which is another challenge in itself. Wait, what? I'm so confused. And yet, the guide also says that inside the fort must... I guess it's one of these. Either the fort is destroyed, or Liu Bei's forces is in the fort, but his troop count is less than 3,000. And then it says that when his troop count is less than 3,000, Lu Xun will burn all the camps. And all of Liu Bei's forces will be in chaos and there'll be fire. So you have to win the debate, you have to eliminate Zhuge Liang's forces, you have to deal with the reinforcements, and then you have to either... Okay, you have to taunt Liu Bei because you need to inflict enough damage so that he has less than 3,000 troops. And you have to surround him with 2 units, with one of them being Lu Xun. You see how this is like... I mean, I'm not in the mood. Maybe someone else has the patience to get through it. I definitely don't. I'm like, screw this. I don't have that much time to record. Okay, now let's move on to the Lu Bu encirclement battle. This one I got everything, thank goodness. So here you're playing, so the first one, play as Lu Bu. Basically move him next to Yuan Shao, and then he will, so you will have to duel Yan Liang and Vento, but it should be simple enough. You actually heal between the battles, so you have a pretty big advantage. And what happens is, well, hopefully you win. it's not as like clear cut as the baits, but Lu Bu is just very strong. And basically the enemy's morale lowers, your morale raises. No, not that big. Second one, Lu Bu moves next to Ma Teng, and basically you have to fight Ma Cao and Pang De. And apparently you can do this if you play as Ma Teng as well. You just have to move next to him and the battles will automatically happen. Automatically resolve, so Ma Cao and Pang De will die and Ma Teng's forces will be in chaos. Next one, if you move Lu Bu next to Sun Ce, you will have to fight Zhou Qing and Tai Si Ci, and then after that Sun Ce will fight personally and he'll be eliminated, and Sun Ce will ask Zhou Yu to avenge him. And if you're playing as Sun Ce, you can just move next to him, and what ends up happening is Zhou Qing and Tai Si Ci will die, but you'll live. Next one, what happens is if you're playing as Song Liao and he's surrounded, so when he's surrounded, his morale will raise and he'll be able to, actually, I don't remember, I think he actually inflicts damage to those nearby. And enough for this one, where Zhang He fights off those around him and inflicts decent amount of damage. So I think this does the same thing. It says the same thing, just different officers. Next one, so here you have to play as Chen Gong. And while Sun Ce and Ma Teng are still available, what happens is you have to move Chen Gong next to Yuan Shao. And the idea is, after a debate, which if you win, you will cause Yuan Shao's forces to go into chaos and he'll lose troops. So basically, he's taking advantage of Yuan Shao's very suspicious nature and make him wonder if Ma Teng and Sun Ce are actually trying to are trying to plot against him. So yeah, they play as Chen Gong and just move next to him, win the debate, and then voila. You don't even have to win the debate, it just happens, but it's nice if you win. And it's not that hard. And next you have Yuan Shao's forces getting reinforcements. So this only happens if you're playing as Lu Bu. So what happens is, if Lu Bu's force, play as Lu Bu, you lower Yuan Shao's forces to main force to 3,000 soldiers or less. What happens is you will have one of Yuan Shao's sons, I think it's Yuan Tan, and Guo to arrive, and Yuan Shao will get troops, returning him back to 10,000, and he'll get morale. But to be honest, morale is not that useful in these scenarios. Next one. So if you're playing as Lu Bu, if your forces outnumber the the alliance, what happens is I think it's Xiu, this guy. He will actually surrender to Lu Bu. So what happens is, yeah, Jia Yi will convince him. Jia Yi is under Zhang Xiu and convince him to surrender to Lu Bu. He does it, and Lu Bu accepts. And if you're playing as the alliance, when Lu Bu's forces outnumbers yours, this will happen. So you have to suffer quite a bit of losses for it to happen. And for Lu Bu's forces to get reinforcements, you have to use Ma Teng or the Sun Ce, and you have to attack Lu Bu's forces so that it's less than 1,000 troops. And then what happens is Jilin will come and reinforce. Lu Bu's forces will go back to 10,000 and their morale will recover or increase. Yeah, these are not too bad. Most of them are straightforward, just move someone close to someone. Now, the last one is the surprise attack on Shutong. So the first one, pretty straightforward. You're using Cao Cao, and when the outer gate, the defense is low, is it Xu Yun? Xun Yun, I think. Xu Yun. Man, these names. So what happens is he will order the gates to open to lure the enemy in, and then for the trap to happen, what happens is if at least 3 of Sun Ce's forces are inside the outer city gates, and this doesn't count if they're on the walls, it says all the forces will, okay, yeah, all the forces withdraw onto the walls or into the most inner part of the, so there are 3 gates, right? There's outer, middle, and inner. If all of your troops are either on the walls or between the middle and the inner gate, then this will trigger, and yeah, they will be in chaos and they will take fire damage. Pretty straightforward. Next, it says if Xiahou Dun's forces got hit in any way, then, so first that has to happen, and if he got eliminated through a duel, then this won't happen. So regardless of which situations, like if you're playing as Sun Ce, you just have to hit him lightly. Sometimes it take a few tries because it seems to take time to register, but you just have to hit him lightly. Xiahou Dun's forces, and it will arrive. And it seems to be the same if you're playing as Cao Cao's forces. You just need him to get his forces to get slightly hit. They don't have to take heavy damage, and Cao Cao will arrive. Yeah, so basically it's Cao Cao, Cao Chun, Xu Chu, and Xia Houyuan will arrive as reinforcements. Next one, Tai Si will arrive. Yeah, this one, so basically if you're playing as Sun Ce and you fall into the ambush, right? You basically break through the outer gate. You have 3 forces moving in, and then they fall into the trap, then Taisatsu will automatically happen. Otherwise, yeah, that's the funny thing. Apparently, if you play as Sun Ce and you never attack Xiahou Dun, Cao Cao won't ever show up. Or you could just defeat him in the duel, and then that's one less problem to worry about. But overall, I find that, like, it happens very easily if you're playing as Cao Cao. You don't even have to do anything, so I wouldn't worry about that. Next, you have to use 周瑜 或者 Xu Yun, and basically they have to be next to each other, and they will have a debate. So one of them will support, like reestablishing the Han Dynasty. The other says you should get rid of it. And the side that loses, their force go into confusion, go into chaos. The next one, I've tried it. I haven't succeeded. It says that if you have 2 of your forces with their morale below 50, it should trigger. That hasn't happened. Oh yeah, and you have to do this before Cao Cao arrives. Because when Cao Cao arrives, your forces will automatically gain morale, and it will make it impossible. So what I did is trying to set fire, because if the fire still exists and the units, the forces in there, the force actually loses 3 morale, and you have to do it enough. But I've gotten 2 units under 50 morale, and nothing triggers. So either something's wrong, or there's some other requirement I don't know. I haven't been able to figure it out. Now, next one, this is basically, since 3 of your forces get inside, they fall into the trap. And the other one, attack Xiahou. For this one, you just had to attack Xiahou Dun, and Cao Cao's forces will arrive. And this one is interesting. Let me just showcase. I think it's a bit easier, because it's not very obvious. So this one basically allows him to earn the title of Ba Wang. So this is... Actually, I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. It has indeed been a while. So I'm not going to bother attacking the city. I think it's right here. So you have to be on a certain tile for this to trigger. And it requires, I think it's here, I can't remember. And it's kind of luck based as well. But luckily it doesn't take that much work to find out. So sometimes when you attack, it doesn't trigger, which is really annoying. Good, go ahead, taunt it. Yeah, it's not the most reliable thing to trigger the event. I guess sometimes it, like, a certain number of days have to have passed. I'm trying to showcase, but apparently the game is like, screw you. Yep, it's day 7. Now it's day 8. Does it have to be a certain number of days? I'm doing this because this is the last one. And I still have a bit of time. I don't know where he's headed actually. Okay, yeah, so this triggers... Actually, I don't think... No, this fog is not helping. Okay, yeah. So you have to get lucky. Sometimes you need all 3 of them to surround you. And it doesn't always happen, but luckily it's not that hard to trigger. So basically say, oh, we're surrounded, all 3 sides, what are we going to do? He's like, don't panic, we will attack all 3 sides. How do we do that? And then basically he leads the way and is able to charge all 3 sides. And as you can see, so it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you have them like in 3, like 1, 2, 3, these 3 tiles. So you need a few tries, but apparently even if the fog happens, the event will trigger, and that's all you need to do to unlock that last one. So, like I said, there are 3 I can unlock. This one requires too many to go your way, and you have too little control. This one requires way too many steps. Wait, no, I'm getting confused. Yeah, this one requires everything to align. This one requires so many things to go your way, and I just don't have the time to constantly try. Because winning the debate in itself is hard, but then you have to, deal damage to Liu Bei's forces, surround him, take out Zhuge Liang's main and secondary forces. It's a mess. And this one, I just don't know what it is, because I followed the guide and it doesn't work. But hey, I got 81 out of 84. It's not 84 out of 84, but I'm happy. Anyways, this is the end of this video. Next time, I'll wait to see if there's any suggestions. Chances are not, because usually, this is an old game. People generally don't watch it. But I think I'll start with Cao Cao to show how powerful he is in this scenario. Sun Quan and Liu Bei are, they're kind of situational, let's put it that way. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.